Hi everyone, I'm Alexandra Makin and this is Early Medieval Embroidery. In this video I'm going to demonstrate Bayeux Stitch, sometimes known as laden couchwork, and in it you will be able to see the front and the back as it's worked in real time. I'm a professional embroiderer and textile archaeologist specialising in early medieval embroidery, and today I'm going to show you how to stitch laden couch stitch, and if you want to see more remember to subscribe.
So I'm working this motif in different coloured threads so that you can see each element of the stitch as it's being worked. Position the first stitch in the centre of the motif. This way all the stitches that are worked on either side of it should lie at the correct working angle. They shouldn't slope off in one direction or the other. You can see on the reverse of the fabric that I've started the stitch with a knot, and this is how the stitch is started on the bare tapestry, but obviously today we tend to start with two small holding stitches. The choice is yours. So we bring the thread up at one point on the motif, then we take it to the reverse of the fabric directly opposite where it has been brought to the front, creating a straight stitch. The next stitch starts next to where the last one was taken to the reverse, creating a small straight stitch on the back side of the ground fabric. The thread is taken to the opposite side of the motif and back to the reverse side of the fabric next to where the previous one started. And this process is repeated across both halves of the motif, filling it with thread. You can see here that I'm casting off this thread by just using a couple of small stitches. On the bare tapestry a variety of methods were used. You can see that as I start the second half of the motif, the only stitching that can be seen on the reverse side is a line of small straight stitches that follow the outline of the shape being worked. Now the second layer of stitching can be added. This is worked at 90 degrees to the direction of the stitches used on the first layer, coming up at one side of the motif and being taken down to the reverse directly opposite. However, for the second stitch a gap is left so that the first layer of stitching can be seen between these lines. Handy hint, layer the thread across the motif before taking it to the reverse. This way you can make sure that it forms a straight line at 90 degrees to the first layer of stitching, and then you can take it to the reverse side of the ground fabric. Hopefully you can see that on the reverse the thread still follows the outline of the motif, but with longer punctuated lines of straight stitches, so the centre of the motif on the reverse is clear of stitching altogether. The third and final layer of stitching is worked in the same direction as the first. However, this time, small individual stitches are sewn at intervals along the second layer of threads. And another handy hint, try not to take the thread too close to the second layer of stitching so it doesn't move it out of alignment. To make a nice neat stitch, angle your needle so that it passes underneath that second layer of stitching but doesn't actually touch it. You can also see that on this third layer of stitching, the lines over sewing the second layer are worked in alternate spaces so that you get a brick-like effect. This is what gives the name brick. You can see on the reverse that this layer of thread covers the motif with short diagonal stitching that lies in rows, and obviously there's a stitch at alternate ends of each row where the thread moves to the next working row. And here is the finished motif. Lots of thread on the front, but very little on the reverse.